In Chapter 11, we hit the first really important idea of statistics, and that's the idea of randomness. As simple as I can state it, randomness is where no one can guess the outcome before it happens. For example, we think about flipping a coin as random because no one knows if it'll be heads or tails until it actually happens. Okay? In statistics, we use randomness as a tool, a pretty powerful tool. Okay? This chapter is all about creating simulations, and we'll use randomness as a tool. Okay? Now, there are two places that you can find pseudo-random numbers or semi-random numbers. One is on your calculator, as explained by a TI tip, and a second is in a table of random digits, like in the back of your textbook. Okay, this TI tip is the very back of this chapter. You can find this on your calculator by hitting Math, which is underneath the green alpha button, and then hitting the right arrow to hit Probability and choosing number 5. Okay, int means in between or intermediate. If you put two numbers into the parentheses, it'll give you one number between those two digits, okay, like between 1 and 6. If you put three numbers, it'll give you numbers between 1 and 6, but it will give you two of them, or in this case, 5 of them. So the last number tells you how many digits you want, okay, a really powerful tool on your calculator. Here's an example, like the back of your textbook, of just a string of random digits. The important thing is how we're going to use these random digits. So, according to our textbook, there are 7 steps in building a simulation. The first step is where you identify what component is going to be repeated. Okay. Second, and I think most important step, is explaining how you will use your random numbers to model the component's outcome. Okay, so how you allocate the numbers to model that component is really important. The third is how do you combine the components to model a trial. Okay, in this case, the trial was getting one of each. Okay, so you have several components that make up one trial. Okay, 4, also really important, is to state clearly what the response variable is. What are you really looking for? In this case, it's how many boxes you must open to get all 3 pictures. So it's a single number that we're looking for. That's the response variable. Okay. Once you have that all figured out, you then run several trials, and the more the better. Okay, so you run several trials, and you'll get something that looks like this, where you have several trials. You have your response variable over here of how many boxes it took to come up with all 3 pictures. Okay. Now, you then analyze that in step 6. Okay, we'll usually just take an average. What was the average number of boxes it took, or the average number of trials it took to get what we wanted to find? Okay, and then stating your conclusion in context is always a great way to end a simulation or an analysis of any kind.